Welcome to Gaming Grounds. It's your boy Action Jack, man, and I'm coming back to you with yet another video. As you've seen, I've been spacing out my videos. I'm just trying to keep my content original at this point, and then also just finding a slump because the gaming news is either just very redundant, a lot of complaining, or nothing interesting. I will definitely try to set up a video for Astral Chain when it does release, because that is something that's very interesting and something that I'm looking forward to playing and also showing you guys, and also getting back into streaming. I really haven't done it since like the first two videos I've actually done, but I'll definitely get back into it and still continue to use Mixer, so please be on the lookout for that. I'll definitely have my Mixer down in the description. But to get right into the video, the sole purpose of this video is something that came by way of the game idea guy. He, sent me a message on Twitter. Not necessarily a message, but just sent a post on Twitter, just pretty much, giving me some ideas of some things to talk about in the sense of things of old, because everything, like I said, right now is just it's very boring. So if I ever waited for something new to come up in the news right now, I would never make a video based off of my own interest. But the idea that I came up with was, what if we still had rental stores today? Would they be able to coexist with the digital front? Would they be able to even still stand up if things were done differently? By no means do I ever feel like rental stores will be able to stand up if they were still being ran the way they were back in the 90s and the early 2000s. But nonetheless, I have written down a couple of ideas and some things I would like to share. I would love to hear everybody's feedback if they were to give feedback, and then just kind of, spark a conversation to see if if there was rental stores that came about or still were around, some things that could be altered and if they could still exist. But if you like the premise of that, please stay tuned to the video. As I said, I was going to discuss some new stuff in regards to, if we still had rental stores today, would they still hold up? So I wrote down a couple of ideas, and these were kind of the ideas that I came up with. But to give some of the people or some of my listeners that were not born in the the 80s and went through the 90s growing up, or whatever the case may be, of certain rental stores that were around. I know for me, being I grew up in Alabama. And we only had Movie Gallery for a long time. Like, Movie Gallery was the place to go. And then thereafter, we got a store called Video Etc. Video Etc. for me was kind of like my go-to, because that was my first time of ever getting something more or less for free for renting a game. It was kind of like a pre-order situation. So for the people that bought NBA Jam Tournament Edition, they got the poster that gave you all the codes to unlock all the characters. So if you wanted to get Air Dog, if you wanted to get Raiden, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, they just had it all on this poster. I wish I still had that poster to this day, but my cousins just decided to use it as a slip and slide and pretty much tore it to shreds. But nonetheless, I remember going to Video Etc. and renting NBA Jam Tournament Edition, and them giving me that poster to allow me to actually unlock these characters. But by the time I actually got that poster, the one character I did already know how to unlock due to some of my friends was Air Dog, and that was like the only one I used for the most part. But nonetheless, we had Video Etc. that came in after Movie Gallery, and then a little bit later on, Blockbuster popped up on the scene. My family more or less used Blockbuster specifically for videos. Me and my uncle were more or less the ones that did it for video game purposes. But I just remember just begging and pleading my grandfather to take me to Blockbuster every weekend. Like, I had no idea what games were coming out. I didn't get gaming magazines that often. I really didn't see anything video game wise when I was growing up, for the most part, until I actually started getting a little bit older and getting into the magazines, and the internet popped up with Netscape and everything else, to where I could actually look and search for video game content. Because I remember my uncle told me about the PlayStation 1, and my thought process at the time, thinking it was like this huge arcade machine, in all actuality, it was just a small gaming system, much akin to the Super Nintendo. So, but yeah, Blockbuster and video, etc. Always great, fond memories, and movie gallery, of course, because it was the original for us in the city. Um, but there were a couple of more. I think later on throughout the throughout the span of rental stores, Video Warehouse was something that popped up around our city as well, and that was around the PS3, 360, Wii era. So that was my first time actually experiencing people renting games and not bringing them back. And we had shortly gotten to the point to where my grandfather wanted to stop going because they were asking to hold credit cards on file now, because they were losing money with people not bringing these games back, or either bringing them back broken or however you saw fit. But yeah, so to go a little bit more into my ideas, and that was just some of my personal experiences with these stores. I know we've had digital rental stores as well, from GameFly, and I guess you can kind of say Game Pass is kind of like a rental digital store, as well as possibly PS Now, because the moment you stop paying, you can't play those games anymore. So it's kind of like a rental system, but you just hold on to the games as long as you pay for them. But I think GameFly was the same way, to where you can have them send you a game, and as long as you were paying, you can keep it. There was no time restraint whatsoever, and then the moment you sent it back, they'll send you the next thing on your list, which I'll add more into this conversation piece. But I guess I'll continue to run this more like a podcast instead of a quick video. I just have a lot of thoughts on this subject in total. But to kind of go into what the norm was from what I remember, going to Blockbuster, movie gallery, Video Warehouse, or etc. They had their own different setups. Whether it was later on down the line, you only could rent the brand new games for 3 days. You couldn't have them more than 3 days. But when the games got a little bit older, you could start renting them for a little bit longer. And I think the max was 5 or either 7 days. I'm not quite sure. But then also Blockbuster was the first store that I saw that allowed you to rent systems. And PlayStation for me was the first system that I've seen someone rent, which was my uncle, which he was just a game junkie just like I was. And you had to put down a $100 deposit that you would get back if you actually brought the system back the way it was. But the way that Blockbuster would make their money is you would have to have a memory card for the most part, unless you were going to play the game and leave it on all night. You had to rent the actual game to have something to play. And then in the event that you just wanted to make it a bigger night than just playing video games, of course they had popcorn, sodas, candy, the full experience, because they also sold videos and movies as well, So I believe that was one of the ways of actually doing it. I know you definitely had to bring the game manuals back, because if you didn't bring those game manuals back, you had to pay a fee. If you were late, you had to pay a fee when you brought those games back, because they would call and harass you. I remember renting a game, and I left the game in my uncle's car, and it accidentally slipped under the seat. So when he got the phone call, probably like 3 weeks later, because he was stationed somewhere else in the military, he was livid because of the fee he had to pay for the game not being returned. So yeah, it was a mess between manuals and the actual game still having to work, and if you did videos, you had to rewind them to the beginning of the video before you returned them. But yeah, this is really dating me at this point, but nonetheless, it was a great time. So, but to stay focused on the video game front, I think the biggest issue that I ran into when it came down to rental stores was just the accessibility of certain games. If it was the hottest, latest, greatest game, you had a hard time finding it, because depending on the store and your location, there wasn't that many copies. So you'll instantly run to the back looking for the newest game. You'll see the case because they had the cover for the actual game, but then there was nothing behind it. And it may have been either they didn't put it out yet, or someone had already come and swooped it up because they had the ability to call and come and pick it up on the spot. To where me as a kid, unless I was hoofing it or getting on my bike, there was no way. And the Blockbuster that we had was at least about an hour away from me if I rode my bike. So that was a no go for me all the way through and through. Plus, I needed my grandfather with the rental car and everything else because I was too young to rent. Um, but also, it was just a great experience. The people that you ran into, the ability to actually see different games that you had never seen or never heard of. And my whole rental process was based off of the cover art. If it looked cool, and then also if the summary on the back sounded cool, I was picking the game up and renting it for that weekend. Like I said, I didn't have reviews, I didn't have critics, I didn't have anyone outside of my family that didn't even play video games outside of my uncle to even tell me if this game was good or not. I think the first game that I said that I think that I made a biggest mistake of renting was the Street Fighter game, the movie. That was my first PlayStation game that I ever rent. And I remember forcing myself to play that weekend because the look on my grandfather's face after seeing the game, he wasn't in the games at all, but he knew it looked horrible compared to everything else I had played. And I remember forcing myself playing that game that weekend just so I could rectify the $5 he had just spent for me to play that weekend. But yeah, but to go into some of the ideas that I kind of came up with of how we could kind of bring the rental store back and kind of make it flourish a little bit and help it maintain within this digital era. I think these are some good ideas, and like I said, I appreciate some feedback, and if anybody has anything extra. But so to get into it, I would love to keep the whole 3 to 5 days of rental situation, and I came up with this idea as well because of the current situation of Dragon Quest XI's. As you know, Square Enix and Nintendo just released a demo this past week, and it's 10 hours worth of content. So if you had no clue of what Dragon Quest was, you wasn't quite sure, but you've heard of it, or you wasn't quite sure of the game, or you sampled some of the games before and you were kind of iffy, this is enough content to kind of get you sucked in. And even if you were not sucked in, if you've played it enough and you played 10 hours worth of content, you may just purchase the game to make sure you didn't waste your time, because the content that you've played does carry over into the full game whenever you purchase the game. So you're not losing any progress whatsoever. So I felt like the 3 to 5 day rental thing would be a great idea still, due to the fact that not everyone puts that much love and care into a demo. So if you say, for example, you're not quite sure about Death Stranding, you could go to a video game rental store and see if you're either playing a very, very great game by Kojima, or are you playing a delivery service game by Kojima. That way you're not wasting $60. You're only spending at best maybe $5 to $7. But of course, with inflation, the prices would of course increase. So I would say probably like $10 to actually rent the game to see if you actually like it for those 1 to 3 days. And if you like it, then you can go ahead and proceed with the purchase, which we'll get to later on in the video, of another idea that I have that kind of goes hand in hand with that. So I feel like that is perfect. Get you a little sample taste, and if you like it, you buy it. If you don't, then you can at least say, hey, look, I tried. It was no harm, no foul. Also, like I said, it gives you the opportunity to see possible games that you might like to play. So make sure that you have things more in a I guess you could say a genre selection category, because I remember a lot of the games were based off of new, old, or either by I guess you could say alphabetical order. The movies were genre specific, but the video games were not. So I would say make them genre specific. So even if you say, hey, look, yeah, man, I love Dragon Quest, I want to try more like it, everything within the area of Dragon Quest is RPG centric, and more akin to that type of game. So that way you're not just, going through alphabetical order, flipping over cases and not quite sure what is what. Also, another idea that I would love to see is adding QR codes to the boxes. The reason why I say add QR codes to the boxes is because, once again, my selection was based off of cover art and summary on the back of the box. And as we all know, we now have the internet. So for those that have tried the game, have gotten preview copies and things of that nature, we have reviews the day of, if not a couple of days before the game even releases. So if you add a QR code, most of us, if not all of us, have cell phones. You scan that QR code, and not only does it take you to a video via, YouTube, or if the actual rental store has a website that has videos to show you, I guess, a trailer of said game, but also it'll point you to reviews from the customers that have actually rented the game, as well as some of the reviews that may have popped up on Metacritic or whatever the store chooses to partner with. So it would always be like a partnership, so you're not just getting thrown to something random, just a random Joe off the block, or if they just if they just have like a, I guess you could say, a partnership with a YouTube or Metacritic, I don't know, a Player Essence, whoever that does anything, Mana J, anybody, just partner up with those people or those companies and make sure that the content is consistent. So if I scan one game, I see everything, but I scan another, there's nothing there. It doesn't come off as, oh, well, people just don't pay attention to this game, so therefore it must suck. So I just wouldn't want that to be the premise. But like I said, nonetheless, that would give you a great idea of, hey, what's this game about? Let me scan it real quick, instead of going through a search, and 9 times out of 10 the stores or your reception within the store is horrible. So you can get it right there up front, no problem. I think I remember seeing a game store not too long ago actually hold that idea, but they kind of had like a TV in the middle, or a screen in the middle of the actual show floor. So when you went and scanned the game, it worked that way, if it worked. But nonetheless, it was GameStop that used to do that. GameStop actually used to do that, now that I think about it, because it used to be up front, and what you could do is you could scan a game and it would run a trailer for you. Dang, I forgot all about that. But anyway, nonetheless, yeah, so that same idea. So you would just scan a game, and then it'll give you pretty much the rundown of said game. Also, like I said, the Blockbuster that I knew of gave you a possible rental of said system. So I would say, definitely offer that ability to put down a deposit and be able to rent that system. But I think where this runs into an issue is if you put down a deposit and you kind of run off with the system, that'll be, said and done. It's over with. You just pretty much got a system for a deposit. But like I said, I think the idea of having a credit card on file works perfectly, because if you don't come back with that system at the date that we said that you're going to come back with that system, or we told you to come back, then we hit you upside the head with double the full price of the system. So therefore, there's no question. There is no, oh well, I just kept it and I actually got it for the actual price, versus, oh shit, I put $100 deposit down on a Switch, but at the same time I just got ran $600 for it. So I think that will definitely make people, show a little bit of urgency and care more about the system, as well as bringing it back. Let's see what else. Definitely I want to say, like, the weekend rental systems that they had in place before were a great idea, as far as the 1, 3, 5 days. And then, like I said, with the system, I think that has to be, for the rental system, it has to be a one-time thing. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's kind of stupid to be able to rent a system one time, but you have to think about it this way. We have a lot more people involved in video games now. So if I continue to rent a system over and over and over and over again, one, we don't have enough for everybody to rent out. Two, you've already experienced what it is. The whole point of the rental is for you to play a system that you're thinking about purchasing, that you can't get that same experience within like a demo station or a kiosk at a store, because everything is lock and key. You don't get the joy and accessibility of it. So take it home, relax, play it for 1 to 3 days, and bring it back to us. And then, we'll offer the option of you actually buying the system, which segues right into what I was speaking of earlier, of being able to purchase games. We'll have our rental games separate from our actual The rental games are separate from the purchase games. So if you rented a game, you wouldn't be buying necessarily the same disc or the same cartridge. You would, definitely go and pick up another one off the shelf, so that way you wouldn't have to rent something from that store and then run over to GameStop or run to Walmart or go to Amazon or wherever it is that you purchase your games. You could do it all in one-stop shop situation. Let's see what else. Definitely would have to have accessories. Definitely would have to have the snacks and the food and everything else, because I still snack and drink and everything like that while I play video games as well. So why not, once again, one-stop shop right there at the cash register like Blockbuster used to do it, and therefore you get everything knocked out. Also, things within the store that need to be enticing for people to even come. I just visited a Guitar Center for the very first time yesterday, and it was amazing. And the one thing that I enjoyed about Guitar Center that I didn't think they were going to, have in place was for you to try almost everything in that store. You had the ability to try everything. So it wasn't, oh man, this looks like a great keyboard, but I don't know how it sounds. I just know how the keys feel, and I know what comes with it because of the card that they have attached to it along with the pricing. Man, this looks like a great drum, but I don't know what it sounds like. Man, this looks like a great DAW system, but I don't know how it functions. This looks like a great DJing system, but I don't know how it functions. They had all that set up to where you can go in there and act like a DJ. I had my music that I create playing over these huge speakers because I was trying out the audio board that they had in there to where I can adjust my levels and listen to these huge speakers that you see at concerts, and it was amazing. And also sample out DAW systems like Ableton and FL Studios and stuff like that. But to get back on point for the video game front, you would need demo stations still to this day, and I feel like there needs to be a different way of doing these demo stations, because as we all know, the moment that kids get their hands on demo stations to where parents don't have to pay them any attention, this is how things end up broke. And I remember going to Walmart plenty of times wanting to try something out, but the controller no longer worked because someone's badass child showed up and just tore up the controller. So definitely have those demo stations, and also have the ability to have demo stations as well for classic systems, which ties into classic rentals as well. If you can, if these stores can just find a bunch of NES's, Super Nintendos, Dreamcasts, PlayStations, PS2s, whatever the case may be, find these, clean them up, refurbish them, and then give people the ability to rent out those systems whenever they're just getting that nostalgic feel. Because I have it a lot. And I kid you not, I get to the point to where I get that nostalgic feel. I pull out like my Super Nintendo Classic, my Dreamcast, my PS2, run it for a while, and then realize the headache that I had to go through to try to set it up to a HD TV, or trying to get the disc to work, or it's been sitting up too long, so therefore it just stops working for some reason. So I would love the idea to go somewhere knowing that the system works, knowing that the games work, knowing that I already have a memory card here. All I would have to do is just pick up, plug in, and play, and be that simple, and just enjoy my time with that nostalgic feel for a while, and then just bring it on back without having to hold up, and maintain it, because I'm horrible at those things. So I think that'd be a great idea. But to kind of get into this whole wrap up, the one major key piece that I feel like this rental store would need to have is a secondary or necessary alternative purpose. And what I mean by that is this: you come into the store, you know what you want to rent. That's cool. You rent it, you take it out. You want a system to take home, to rent. You come in, drop the deposit, rent a game along with it, take it home, have fun, bring it back. Cool. What about that person that does not own the system, does not want to rent said system, but still wants to play the game outside of the short demo that you get on the demo kiosk? The answer for me would be a game room sound slash lounge. So of course you would have to have employees here to make sure things are monitored, and I would say run it the same way that they used to run it for us whenever we were at the USO, while I was stationed, or I went on tour in Germany, and same way when I was stationed in Iraq. The way that they used to run the USO, they had TVs lined up against the wall, and they had this specific system tied to that specific TV. So you had your PlayStation area over here, you had your Xbox area over here, and then at that time, I believe, what was out at the time? I want to say the Wii was still out at that time. The Wii or the Wii U. No, it was the Wii, definitely. So the Wii was still out at the time, but in this case, it would be the Switch. So you have your own individual stations for all three systems. So that way there is no, oh, well, I got this TV and I want to play this system, and they have to keep interchanging them out. But you definitely make it comfortable. You have couches, you have food that they can buy, you have drinks, you have the whole 9 yards. But at the same time, it's a time monitored situation. For us, we had about a good hour to play whatever we had to play. And if you wanted to play something else, then you had to put your name back on the list. And then, you just queue it back up. And all games were kept behind the desk. So whenever it was your time to play whatever, they was like, hey, look, what did you want to play? Say, okay, I want to play the PlayStation. They'll give you the controller. And then also they'll give you whatever game that you want to pick from the list that they had up front. So that way you're not just looking at the games in the back and can't really read the cases. They let you know what they had available. So they always were up to date too. So if anything new came out, they had it right then and there. So there is no, oh shit, I came to play this and y'all don't even have it. So definitely have it set up to where there's music playing. You have a multiplayer section. You have a single player section, because for those of us like myself that I only care about single player games, if I just want to be in the environment and people want to sit down and actually watch me play, to where it's kind of akin to watching Let's Plays. But, just sitting down and, vibing with your friends and eating food, and them giving you tips and ideas of how to complete something. If you're missing whatever, it kind of takes you back to the whole, actual having friends at home, to where you don't have to worry about, oh, well, Nintendo doesn't offer voice chat, or this voice chat doesn't work, or do you use Discord? It's just, face-to-face actual friend interaction. So to me, I think that right there would more or less be the driver. That'd be the pinpoint, because I can imagine kids getting on the bicycles, riding up, putting up their bicycles, going straight to the back, paying to get into the game lounge, renting, getting their food, the whole 9 yards. And even if you didn't want to charge them to actually come into the gaming lounge, you'll get them with the food, and that's just, or either they pay for a certain amount of time that they're gonna play. So it's like, okay, I want to come in, I want to get in a good hour or two of, Street Fighter. So they come in, hour or two on Street Fighter, they do their thing. There is no bringing your own controller, there is no anything. So that way, everything that's being used, there is no confusion of, oh, I brought this with me. Everything is labeled, everything is taken care of as far as the security front. We got cameras, the whole 9 yards. But I think right there, with those pivotal pieces that I just mentioned, with you being able to rate games, rent systems, get your food, snacks, demo the games, even there at the store, as well as have the ability to see reviews and trailers of the game right there in the store, to where there's no reason for you to have to dig or search for anything. I think that will allow rental stores to stand up and exist today. Digital, like I've always said, should be an alternative, not a primary. Primary should be your physical. Digital, if you can't get said game, or if you're just too lazy to get it, and okay, get it. But there's no reason for us to say, oh, digital and digital only. We should always keep physical and digital for those that, like it the way that they like it. But like I said, that has been my video. And like I said, just let me know what you guys think. I don't care if you like or dislike the video. Honestly, I don't. I just want to spark a conversation. And that was the whole point of me making the video as long as I did. So if you listen to all, I say about 30 minutes of the video, I definitely appreciate you. But if you didn't, and you just like the title, and you just want to, share your interest within the comments of both Twitter and YouTube, please do so. I just really want to see what people think, if rental stores will hold up nowadays. Once again, it's been your boy Action Jack, and I'm out. Peace.